Hello, Abraham. Thank you. The voices I heard as a child, what was that all about? And I feel that they're trying to communicate with me again. Is that right, or is that just my imagination?
It is right, and it is your imagination.
Yes, I understand.
This question comes at a perfect place given the basis that we've already laid here tonight, because we were talking about your point of attraction being whatever it is, and in this case in alignment with who you really are, so that what's in your vortex can flow into your grid in a way that you will realize it. And so when you are tuned to the frequency of that which is your source, then it's logical, isn't it, that you would then hear the message. And it's interesting to us that that feels like a rare experience or a surprising experience. Like, what was it that I was hearing? The most natural thing in all of the world. You are hearing the natural consequence of you being in alignment with the whole of who you are. You were experiencing step 3. I say. It's interesting and important to recognize that the vibrational frequency of a question is very different than the frequency of the answer. Can you feel that? The frequency of a problem is very different than the frequency of a solution. So often when you're really asking for something, a lot of people pray in such earnest from a place of not having something that they want, and their prayer cannot be realized. They cannot realize the answer to it as long as the question is so active within them. So when you realize that step 1 and step 3 are different steps, and that you've been asking and asking and asking, and then somehow you found a way to be in alignment with who you are. And can you recall, it was a long time ago, the example that you're offering, but it's not been so long since it happens all the time to you. What's going on in your life experience that puts you in a place where you can hear that? Can you remember what was happening then? Do you recall any of the details of it? Usually,
do you mean long ago or now?
Long ago, because that's the way you prefaced the...
Yes, it wasn't such a happy situation.
So you were
as
asking,
a child,
you were asking with great intensity, but when the answers came, in the moment that those answers were coming, can you recall what you were doing? Because you had to be in a state of allowing, or you would not have been able to hear. You see what we're getting at?
Yes. Yeah, I was relaxed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You maybe had given up.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you're hearing music, or sometimes you're just walking by yourself and it just occurs to you. But for sure, what you weren't doing was blocking it or keeping it from happening. You were in a state of allowing. And so it's worth, don't work too hard at trying to remember, but watch for the evidence of it now. So you said then or now. So tell us about the now voices that you are hearing.
I start to hear them, and then I think my mind doesn't really believe it.
Yeah, and then you stop. So somehow, without really knowing how, you prepared your grid for the revelation, for the realization. You see, that's what inspiration is. That's how ideas flow to you. That's how everything gets from your vibrational reality, your vortex version, into your manifested reality. You are the translator of it. Do you get that? It may not seem that way to you because it seems like things happen, that physical things happen, but the reason they happen is because you are vibrationally up to speed enough with them to happen. As your society, as you talk with one another, it's very slow going when you have to wait for everyone around you to perceive it before you allow yourself to believe it. That was a big statement. Can you imagine how dynamic your life could be if you didn't need the justification of others being in vibrational alignment with it before you receive it? Aren't you glad that Esther didn't have to wait for every one of you to tune into the frequency of Abraham before she was able to receive it? Isn't it nice that through meditation, she just quieted her mind for about 9 months, sat every day with Jerry for 15 or 20 minutes and quieted her mind. And in the quieting of her mind, there was the releasing of thought. And in the releasing of thought, there was the releasing of resistance. And in the releasing of resistance, there was the natural raising of her vibrational grid until she heard us, you see, not in audible words. She received the clear understanding that we were offering. And it was so undeniable that she could not speak it. In other words, it was so vivid and so real, realer than anything that she was seeing in the reality that was already manifested around her. There was no question, you say, that there was someone that knew something and had something to say about something that was important. And frequently Esther would say, Abraham, she said it tonight, standing here, getting ready for us to be ready for you. Abraham, I want to speak clearly your words. And we said what we always say, as always, relax, release, receive. Here we come.
That does lead me into something else. I feel that. I know that there is something bubbling on the surface that needs to be said. I don't know really how to explain this, but there's stuff that needs to be said, and I want to put my own unique voice to that stuff. People are wanting to hear what, not me, but what there is to be said. Does that make sense?
It does, and we know why you feel that way, but we'll tell you what we said to Esther when she was feeling some of that same clarity. Esther said, Abraham, do you want me to tell this to the world? And we said, no, sweet girl, we're only telling you. In other words, it's answers to what you are seeking. It's answers to what you are seeking. In Esther's case, Jerry was the one with all of the questions. Esther was just living happily ever after. And so we said about them that Jerry was the step 1 in the equation, and we were the step 2 in the equation, and Esther was the step 3, because Esther was just willing to allow. And that's the thing that is tripping you up just a little bit.
Yes.
Because
I feel that.
Because in the activating of the question within you, there is a vibration that disallows the answer. So you just have to let there be some distance of time between your identifying the question. If we were standing in your physical shoes, we'd move through a day or a week, and we would let life's questions bubble up within you. And we would identify them, even write them down. And then we would say, I'm going to relax and allow at the perfect opportunity my receiving of the answers. And then we would get off the subject. We wouldn't sit with an attitude of determined receiving. Instead, we'd go about living happily ever after. We'd get outside. We'd move a lot. We'd be easy about things. That's why when you're running, it comes. That's why when you're relaxing, it comes. And then just pay attention to when that powerful impulse comes. That's what inspiration is, you see. It's not different. This that is happening before you right now is not different from what every one of you intended for yourselves. In other words, Esther's not a rarity. She's a very good example of someone who has managed to bring her vibrational frequency consistently enough into the vicinity of that which is her source, that the translation and the revelation from that vortex into this physical time-space reality is really easy for her. But there's not one of you who does not have that same ability. Every one of you are extensions of source energy. And we think the pieces that have tripped you up, that have kept you from being able to receive this inspiration at will, is that you are, we love you so much, hung up on step 1. You just beat the drum of the question too much. You're asking with such intensity. Where is my money? Our friend asked earlier. What am I doing? Why won't the money come? Other things come, but why not this? Why not this? Why not this? Why not this? That's why. The question's too big within you. You have to find a way to soften the question a little bit, to acknowledge the rightness of where you stand. Because in the bigness of a question, there's the feeling that I don't have the answer, or I'm not worthy of the answer, or I'm not ready for the answer, or I'm not smart enough to receive the answer, or I don't know what to do with the answer. And none of that is true. The question's just too active, that's all. It's sort of like, you know, how when you ask your teenager to take the garbage out, and they don't do it, so you just ask them again and again and again and again and again, and they still don't do it. It's sort of like that. It's like you get fixated so much on the problem or the question that then the answer doesn't come, and then you question your ability to receive.
Yep.
When the ability is right there, there's just a perceptual change that you want to softly make.
Spot on.
Exactly.
Thank you.
This is a good time for a segment of refreshment. We'll take 20 minutes. There's no homework, which means don't talk to each other. Well, you can talk to each other, but apparently we're finished. All is well. Good time.